Hey everyone, welcome to Redbox Sewing and Crafting, and welcome to my craft room. I'm Joanna. So today we are going to be starting making this album. With the one I'm going to be making these videos, I'm not going to put this magnetic band on, but I will show you how to make it if you want to make it for yours. So you will need two 6.5 by 8.5s, one 2 3/4 by 8.5, and if you are making the band, one 2 by 7, and that is olive chipboard. And I went ahead and put score tape on the backs. And for covering these, you will need two 8.5 by 10.5s, one 5 3/4 by 10.5, and for the binding part, you will need one 4 by 9 if you are going to do this part. So this is going to be like all of my other album covers. It's a lay flat. So what you're going to do is put one of your papers in the scoreboard like this. This is my one of my 8.5 by 10.5s, and I have one of my 6.5 by 8.5 piece of chipboard. I'm going to take off the backings. And I have two 1/2-inch rulers, which makes 1 inch. On the main pieces and the closure part, it's 1 inch all around. For the spine, it's 1/2 inch on the sides, 1 inch on the top and bottom. I will show you that when we get to it. So we're going to center this, making sure that we have a 1 inch border around the whole piece here. We're going to do it with our other 6.5 by 8.5 inch piece here. Like so. And then I'm going to do this with the 2 by 7 on the 4 by 9 inch piece cardstock. You just want to center it in the middle like so. So these 3 pieces have 1 inch on all 4 sides. Now with the spine, it's going to be 1.5 inches on the sides and 1 inch on the top and bottom. So I'm going to take the backing off here. And I'm going to put this in the corners is I have 2 1/2-inch rulers on the top and a 1.5-inch ruler on the side. Then I know I have the right amount of spacing that I need. So your spine will look like this. I'm going to grab my mat here, and we're going to take all these pieces and burnish them on the front and go around all 4 edges to curve the paper around the chipboard. So I'm going to do this to the rest of my pieces, and then I will be back to show you the next step. Now that we have all our pieces burnished, you're going to take them and we're going to fold the paper around the chipboard. And this helps with cutting the corners. The burnishing around the edges helps with keeping the paper smooth around the chipboard when you fold it around the edge. You'll get a more smooth edge instead of a rough one if you didn't burnish. So now I'm going to start with these pieces. You're going to take your scissors and you can cut your corners out for these 3 however you like. The way I like to do it is I like to cut at an angle about a 1/4 inch away and then trim straight to the corner of the chipboard. So once the corner is out, it'll look like this. So cut diagonal, then straight towards the chipboard corner and cut it out. And we're going to be doing this for the 2 6.5 by 8.5 and the 2 by 7 closure piece. So once I'm done cutting all these corners out, I will show you how to cut and prep the spine piece. Moving on to the spine, on the side piece, we're going to do what we did with the others. So diagonal cut, and then straight to the corner. But when we get to the top and bottom pieces, you're going to make a straight cut down to the corner. So it'll look like this. Again, diagonal corner about 1/4 inch away, and then straight to the corner, and then bottom and top tabs you want to cut straight down. And once your 4 corners are cut out, you will have 2 nice flaps that look like this that will attach to the front and back cover pieces, and then these 2 tabs will come in and cover the chipboard, which is why you don't want to miter these parts. After the corners on spine are cut out, I'm just going to re-burnish the 2 the 2 flaps here, and I like using 1-inch score tape for this part. You can use 1/4 inch if you want and add a few more pieces, but I like using this stuff. You're going to put your score tape about 1/4 to 1/8 inch away from the chipboard edge. So that looks like this. Don't know if you can see it, but here is the chipboard edge right here, and then this is the edge of my score tape. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. And you want to do this on the right side of your spine piece. And I'm just going to burnish down the tape really quick. And then if I fold them back, you can notice that there's cardstock on these sides, on the edges of the chipboard. There's no score tape on them, so that when you put the chipboard on top, these pieces, and you fold it like a normal book, you won't be seeing any score tape, and it won't be sticking and causing issues when you try and open and close it. So now I'm going to grab my 1/2 inch score tape here, and on the chipboard side of my spine, I'm going to put score tape on the top and bottom tabs on the outside edges, just like this, and burnish them down really quick. Then move the tape backing, and I have glue right here. I'm going to run a bead of glue right along the edge of my chipboard, like so. And then I'm going to take my scraper tool, push the cardstock up against the chipboard, and run my scraper tool against the edge a couple times, and then carefully pull the paper and stick it on top of the chipboard, like so. And then you have a nice, smooth, flat tap. Again, I'm gonna take my glue, run a bead of it along the chipboard, push up against it, pull the paper against the chipboard, and smooth it down, like so. Now my spine piece is ready. With these, all I'm gonna do is put score tape or whatever adhesive you like. I just like using score tape for the cover, just because it's getting covered in it's chipboard and I want it to be really sturdy. But you're just going to cover the pieces, burnish the tape down, and then I just take the backing off all four sides, just to make things go a little quicker. And sometimes I do get tape over the edge. I just take my finger and kind of pull it back on itself so that it's underneath and not showing on the outside. Now with the main cover pieces, I like to start with the sides. So bead along the chipboard edge, use my scraper tool to push against it, and I'm going to gently pull like so, and burnish. And you're going to do this to all four sides. Until your chipboard edges are fully covered. And once they're covered, they're going to look like this. And you're going to do this to both your 6.5 by 8.5 and your 2x7. So I will finish this up and then come back to show you the next part. Now that all the pieces are prepped, we are going to put this together. The 2x7 we're going to put aside for now, and we're just going to focus on the 2 6.5 by 8.5 and the 2 3/4 by 8.5. Now I have my scoreboard put to the side like so, because this next part, I like using the scoreboard to help me. I'm going to take one of my 6.5 by 8.5 in my spine. I'm just going to take the backing off of one side. and put glue on the score tape and on the edge of the paper. You don't want any glue on the 1/8 inch space between the score tape and the chalkboard. Now this part is gonna be a little tricky maybe. I like to hold this piece with this hand and hold the tab up, and then with my other hand I'm kind of pushing this way and down to make sure that I have these two butted up against each other as much as possible and this side is flat. And I'm going to carefully lay this down on top of this piece and then flip this over and check my edges to see if I like them, and if I do, I'm just going to burnish as much as I can. And if you see, my two pieces are really flush, but when I open it up, my spine is slightly inset from this piece, so that when you fold these, you have a nice angled flush corner on your album. Going to flip this again. Before I move on to adding my second piece, actually, I am going to take a pen really quick and write top so that I remember where my top is. Because it is easy to forget where your top is. Especially if you're doing this part and then stopping for a break or something and then coming back and continuing making your album, and then you totally forget where your top is. So I just like writing top. Even though I have numbers going the right direction, I still like writing top down just so that I know where my top is. So again, I have glue on my tab. I'm holding with this hand this time and holding my tab, and then I'm pushing this way now and down. Bang this up against this piece, and then I'm going to lightly push down on my tab here. Check to see if everything's good. And then burnish. Next step is to add a piece of paper across the spine. Now, I didn't cut a piece for this, so I'm going to cut it on camera. Let me get a piece of paper really quick. There is a cardstock. So, our cardstock that we wrapped our spine in is 5 3/4 by 8 1/2. Or, well, 5 3/4 across. And our album is 8 1/2 inches high. So, we want a piece that is going to be larger than 5 3/4. So they'll stick to the front and back, and then slightly shorter so it won't be picking out of the edges. So that means we need a piece that is 6 3/4 inches across, and 8 3/8 inches high. So I'm going to do a dry fit really quick to make sure that it fits perfectly and it works really well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some score tape. I have 2-inch score tape here, and I'm going to just put score tape along the whole back of my piece. And I'm going to have to grab a smaller score tape. Just to finish this side really quick. And this isn't chipboard, but I do like using score tape and glue for this, just so that it doesn't peel up. I've had issues with that in the past, and I've noticed that score tape helps really well with keeping this down. And then the glue just helps with maneuvering it around if need be. So I'm going to remove my backings here. And I have a little bit of score tape on this side picking out, so I'm just going to push it back on itself to hide it. And then bring my album cover in, and I'm just going to put some glue all over the score tape on the back here. Just like this. And then making sure that I'm centered as much as possible. I'm going to line everything up and stick it down. And then burnish really well, because you do not want this coming out. And then take your bone folder or scraper tool, whatever you have. Find the edge of your spine and lightly press down. And then slowly lift up the cover piece like so. So that it will fold properly. And you don't want to put too much pressure on it so that you don't break the paper. And there you go. A full album cover complete. Now, if you notice on my album, this part right here, my two outer pieces are a little higher than my spine piece. But I made sure to level the bottom so that it sits flat. So don't have to worry about this. And this is at the top. So, no worries. Onto the inside part. And don't worry, I have not forgotten about the 2 by 7 inch piece. That'll be at the end of this video. Okay. For the inside front, we are going to need one 6 1/8 by 9 inch piece, and 2 6 7/8 by 8 1/4 inch pieces. Now take out your scoreboard again. And for the 2 6 7/8 by 8 1/4 inch pieces, you're going to put the 6 7/8 at the top and score it half and 5/8. Take your other piece, score it half and 5/8. Now with your 6 1/8 by 9 inch piece, you're going to score at ½ inch. And take those tabs, and we are going to burnish them really well. And with the 2 pieces that have the 1/8 inch gusset, you want to be careful to make sure that you still have that gusset in there, because we will need it. Now I am going to take my scissors and just snip off the corners. And with the gusseted pieces, you only want to do that to the outer part. You don't want to cut the gusset. You want to leave that whole. So just at the first score mark. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to, but I noticed that it makes things a little easier when putting them down and making sure that things are covered properly. I'm going to cover these the tabs. I'm gonna cover the tabs in score tape. Just a little bit of score tape here. And don't put any, if you are using score tape for this, do not put any score tape on your gussets. You want to leave your gussets free. So just on the 1/2 inch outer tabs is where you want to put your tape. Or your glue. Whatever adhesive you're using. Just no adhesive on your gussets. Just burnishing my tape really quick. And now I have my album. I'm going to start with the 6 1/8 by 9 inch piece, and just add a little bit of glue on my score tape. And you're going to put this at the top, and you're going to want to center it. I'm going to use my mat here to help me center it. Once you're happy with the placement, you can burnish your tab. Now we're going to open this up. And take your other 2 flaps and we're going to put them at the edge, and you want to align these with the bottom of your album. And with your second one, you want to make sure that you don't go over the fold mark of your album. So I'm just going to raise mine up, my side up, like this, and just place my flap where I want it, just like so. And then I know that's good because I already tested it out and it's not going to interfere with anything. So now I can burnish this, and the front is done. Now onto the back. We will need 1 5 by 7.5. So we score bar it out. Gonna score on the 7.5 inch side at half and at 7, and then turn it around. And at the 5 inch side, you're going to score at half. That will give you 1/2 inch tabs on 3 sides. So fold over your 1/2 inch tabs and burnish these. And then we're going to take our scissors really quick and miter the top 2 corners and angle cut the 2 bottom squares out. So it'll look like this. Again, I'm going to be putting tape on my 3 tabs here. And burnish the tape down really well. And I'm going to get my album back out. So we're going to start with the bottom tab. So just take the backing or put adhesive on the bottom tab only. And we're going to align it with the bottom and the outer edge. And I like to fold my 2 side tabs in just to help me see where my bottom actually is. And I'm just going to check really quick to make sure that the edge of my pocket isn't going to interfere with anything. And it looks good, so I'm going to flip it out and burnish the bottom. And to make things go in the pocket smoothly, I'm going to take a piece of Scotch tape here, and I'm going to put it right over the top of my tab that I just made. I just put down. That way, nothing will get down. And I'm gonna grab another piece of Scotch tape and put it right above, right on the chipboard where the cardstock meets it, just so that there's definitely nothing that's going to get caught on it. And now we can finish putting the pocket together. So add your adhesive to your 2 sides. And then carefully put it down on the back, like so. Now you have a flip out on your front cover and a pocket on your back cover. All you have to do is add paper and your cover is finished. Now, if you want to do the closure that I put on my original album, you're going to take your 2 by 7 inch covered piece of chipboard and you're going to mark where 2 inches is on either side. And to do this, you want to make sure that your outside back cover is fully covered because you will need to glue it down onto the back. And I use glue and score tape because this is chipboard and just putting glue on it isn't going to be strong enough on its own. You need both. And you'll also need to cover the underside if you want to cover the underside. So I have marked 2 inches from either side, and then I'm going to take my scraper tool, place it along the mark that I just made. You can use the edge of your table if you want, or something else. You just need something flat to do this with. I'm going to put it along the mark I made. And then I'm going to bend my chipboard. Just like so. And this is a lighter weight chipboard, which makes it easier to bend. The heavier weight might not work for this. You can use heavier weight to make the base of your album, but for the closure, if you're going to make it, I would definitely recommend you using lighter weight chipboard for this, just so that you can bend it really well where you want the bends to be. And then I'm going to bend the other side the same way. So then I have a piece with 2 2-inch squares, and then the center is going to be a 3-inch gap. And then you'll just need to find the center of the back of your album. Use score tape and glue to adhere it onto your back cover. And then put a magnet closer to the edge, like right here, of the other side of your closure piece. And then add a magnet to your front outside cover. And then you'll have your closure. Now, mine doesn't currently stay on when I lay it flat like this. It kind of flops around, but it does magnetize when it stands up. If you notice, these pages that we will be making are pretty thick. I double matted all of my pages. If you don't double mat, it will still be kind of thick because of everything that we're going to be putting on them. But once your pattern paper, your double matting, whatever you're gonna decorate with, and your pictures are in here, it's definitely gonna fill up, and your closure will definitely work when it's on its side, if you decide to put it on its side. But if you do make your closure and realize that it's not working all the time, don't worry. Just fill it up with paper and pictures and stuff, and it will work. So I hope you enjoyed making the cover of this new album. I'm going to put pattern paper on this, and then next week we will put the hinge in, make the base pages, and start actually putting the pages together. So I will see you next week, and enjoy your crafting. Bye everyone.